Okay, let's come to business, please. This afternoon we're looking at Descartes' Meditations 3 and 4, which, as you can see, I've entitled Descartes on God and Human Reason. We come out of the second meditation with really two conclusions. One is that I exist, a thinking thing, and the other, which is really a corollary of that, is that as a thinking thing I have all sorts of ideas, including the idea of God. Now, if that's the case, that we have those two conclusions, we have really two possible premises for arguing for anything else, like the existence of God. We have no premises as yet that are assured about the existence of a material world or the ordered purposefulness of nature. So there's no possibility as yet for cosmological or teleological arguments for the existence of God. All he has to work with is his own existence as a thinking thing and the ideas that he thinks. And yet he finds that's enough. He starts by considering the different kinds of ideas that we have. And there are three such kinds of ideas. There are some which he calls innate, though, as we'll see, they're not quite innate in Plato's sense, from a previous existence. They're innate rather in the sense that clear and distinct ideas are innate, native to us, arising spontaneously. There are others that are adventitious, and you can get the sense of that from the term advent. They come to you from external causes. Ideas which on our part are involuntary. They're independent of my will, involuntary ideas. They're ideas which are taught us by nature. It's another way he puts it. Namely, in the course of experience, we acquire these ideas, apparently because of external causes, adventitious. And then there are other ideas which are factitious, ideas of which I am the cause. And in that case, they're voluntary ideas, like my idea of a fairy giraffe with butterfly wings, which I put together out of all sorts of other ideas, you see. So, three kinds of ideas, and in effect, in this chapter on the existence of God, what he's going to do is to argue that the idea of God is not a factitious one, which I cause. It is rather involuntary. So it's not factitious. And second, he's going to argue that the idea of God is not simply adventitious in the ordinary sense, it's distinctive because the idea of God has the fullest kind of objective reality about it. So the first two of these three starting points for arguing God's existence have to do with the idea of God. Okay? And the third has to do with his own existence as a thinking thing. So he's going to make use of both of those conclusions which arise from meditation too. Is that much clearer? Okay. Now, let me concentrate then initially on what he has to say about the idea of God. Among my various ideas, he says, ideas of animals and all sorts of things, the idea of God seems to be distinctive in certain ways. Now, because he's going to claim that the idea of God has an objective reality about it, okay? It's a very realistic idea. He's got to define what the idea is. No vague, undefined idea can have that kind of objective reality about it. In fact, he seems to identify clarity and distinctness. You remember that old criterion for an intuitive conception? He seems to identify clarity and distinctness with objective reality of an idea. Okay? Now, notice that in using the phrase objective reality, he's talking of a quality of the idea, not what the idea is about. Because in a representational theory of knowledge, it's the idea which is the immediate object of thought. We think our ideas and use them to refer to external things. So it's the idea that has objective reality. External things must have at least as great a degree of formal reality as the idea has of objective reality. Which is another way of saying that the cause of an idea must be at least as great as the effect. Do you catch those parallels? You see, the idea is an effect of something, caused by something. The idea of God has a great degree of objective reality, so clear, so distinct, so distinctive. So the cause of the idea must have as great a degree, at least, of formal reality, that is to say, external reality, in the nature of things. And that way of talking about the formal reality must be as great as the objective reality is simply saying the cause must be at least as great as the effect. And if you wonder, as we did yesterday, where does he get this idea of cause and effect? His response is simply, nature teaches us. And you'll find that phrase in this chapter. Nature teaches us that the formal reality must be as great as the objective reality. Now, if nature teaches us it, then the idea of cause and effect is an adventitious idea. Okay? It's an idea that we learn in the course of experience. An idea that's caused by our experience of external things. That the cause is at least as great as the effect. It's an adventitious idea. But granted that cause-effect relationship, formal reality, objective reality relationship, then in that light of nature, certain things begin to follow. Now, if you look at the anthology on page 38, we'll pick up the train of thought, and because it's a little bit obscure at a first reading, let me pick out the highlights. I think I must have read this meditation time and time again before I caught some of this in it. At the bottom of the first column on page 38, he defines the idea of God. The idea by which I conceive a God, sovereign, eternal, infinite, immutable, all-knowing, all-powerful, the creator of all things that are out of himself, outside of himself. Now, that's quite a well-defined conception of a theistic being, you see. Eternal, infinite, immortal, sovereign, all-knowing, all-powerful, creator of all things outside of himself. This, I say, has certainly in it more objective reality than those ideas by which finite substances are represented. The major distinction being the conception of a being infinite in regards to those attributes. And it's manifest by the natural light of nature, that there must be as much reality in the efficient and total cause as in the effect. For whence can the effect draw its reality if not from its cause? So forth. Then in the bottom of 39, he sums up this immediate line of thought. To sum up, what conclusion shall I draw from it all? It's this. If the objective reality or the perfection of any one of my ideas be such as clearly to convince me that this same reality exists in me neither formally nor eminently, and if, as follows from this, I myself cannot be the cause of it, then it's a necessary consequence that I'm not alone in the world. That solipsism that we were talking about last time, that solipsism, I and only I exist, is false. There is beside myself some other being who exists as the cause of that idea of perfect being. Well, among my ideas, besides that which represents myself, respecting which there can be here no difficulty, we've already settled that, there is one that represents God. And he zeroes in again on the concept of God. So, all right, there, thus far, what he's doing is setting up the logical apparatus that he's going to use. The notion of objective reality as against formal reality, the cause-effect relationship, indicating where he's going to go with it. Well, halfway down page 40, second column, well, the middle paragraph on page 40, second column, he comes to the idea of God, defines again, by the name God, I understand a substance, infinite, eternal, immutable, independent, all-knowing, all-powerful, by which I myself and every other thing that exists, if any such there be, were created. Okay, essentially the same definition. But these properties are so great, excellent, that the more attentively I consider them, the less I feel persuaded that the idea I have of them owes its origin to myself alone. Now he's saying here, you see, that the idea of God that I have is involuntary. I'm not the cause of it. It's absolutely necessary to conclude